Hey, it's Justin Goff, and I'm here with Kate Azeltine. She is the, let's see, director of marketing for Native Path. They're a huge brand in the health space. You've probably seen their ads and stuff running on Facebook. She's crushing it right now with a bunch of stuff for Native Path. Some stuff with upsell, some stuff with their AOV, with article landers. So I wanted to bring her on to kind of talk about some of the recent wins she had, and also kind of her journey through really kind of not knowing anything about online marketing to kind of moving her way up through multiple companies. She used to work for Six Pack Shortcuts. Now she works for Native Path, and just honestly crushing it. I mean, we get to see her copy in the Copy Accelerator group all the time, and I'm always impressed by it. So, Kate, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Justin. That was quite the introduction.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I think too, talking about coming into copywriting just in general, I still consider myself a student. I still consider myself not knowing anything, because the truth is, like, the next day everything can change. You know what I mean? And you've seen that so many times where you think you know how to do something, and then a compliance policy changes, and then everything that you were doing is shut down. And that happens all the time. And it's definitely happened quite a bit in my career just from working for different brands. And so for Six Pack Shortcuts, I didn't know what online marketing actually looked like. And really how I got into it was I actually started as an outside sales rep selling sports supplements. I got a job. This was probably back in like 2012. I'm from Flint, Michigan. And so there, obviously, I mean, you're from the Midwest, so there's not really, the health and fitness industry doesn't really exist there. So I always kind of had this desire to come to like a warmer climate where people cared about their health and fitness, and I could get involved in sales and change lives. And that was kind of like the whole mission. And I ended up getting a job offer for Dallas, Texas to move. So I packed up my Ford Focus with like some trash bags of clothes and just moved down for this outside sales rep job. And I was doing that for about a year, and I was working at Fitness Expo, and our booth happened to be right next to the Six Pack Shortcuts booth. It was the Ronnie Coleman Classic, actually. And I'd seen him in YouTube ads. Well, I didn't know it was an ad. Again, I just thought it was like, this fucking jacked Asian guy on my YouTube, because I look up, workouts. So I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe, so I knew who he was. And here's this guy, like, he's taking pictures with all these people, and he's like arm wrestling kids and doing like handstand walks through the aisles and stuff at the expo. I'm like, what is this? And they had one product, Afterburn Fuel, their pre-workout. And it was just stacked up on their booth. And I ended up going to the after party and hanging out with them and like meeting Mike Chang. And we worked out at LA Fitness the next day. And, we just got to talking, and I ended up getting offered to come try out for their phone sales team. And so I'm living in Dallas at the time, and only been like a year out of where I came from, Michigan. And I just quit my job. Like, I came to Texas, like, for this big girl supplement sales job. Didn't really care for it. Didn't care to be on the road all the time. And I just quit and moved to Austin. Literally, like, I came and visited the Six Pack Shortcuts office one time. And I walked it. So for people who don't know what Six Pack Shortcuts is, it's like, it's not just marketing. It's it's Wolf of Wall Street, but for supplements. Like, it's crazy if you've seen videos or pictures of, what it looked like.
It was like a scene out of the movie Boiler Room.
Like, okay, but like that, but with this new lens. Okay. So I walk in, there's EDM music blaring. It's a floor full of shirtless dudes that are jacked with headsets on. They're like throwing footballs and like talking shit, putting their customers on mute, and then like closing deals. And then they didn't even have a TV screen that had the numbers. They just had like a whiteboard, and each sales rep's name was listed. And then they'd go up there and erase their total and write their new total, like what they were actually at per day. And being in, I was in supplement sales, but like, face to face. And I was happy if I could convert a person who had like Cellucor C4 pre-workout in their hand and switch them to my brand in the store. I was like, yeah, like $37 sale. And these guys are selling like 12 bottles of Afterburn Fuel at a time. I'm like, how the fuck are you guys doing this? You know what I mean? Like, it blew me away. I'd never seen anything like it. And then you know, when I'm there, there's a gym there. So Mike Chang is filming, like he's not even scripted. He's just filming VSLs and commercials, and he's working out like 3 times a day. Cause at that time, Six Pack Shortcuts they were the largest fitness channel on
Yep.
YouTube, like dominating the space. And that's incredible. Like it blew my mind. And then to see his ethic too, I'm like, yo, this is not what I thought. Like, this is one of the hardest working dudes I've ever seen. And he really motivated that sales team to push it. Like, he'd be up behind those guys, like tell them like, hey, close them for more. Cause I think Chang actually came from LA Fitness, like being he was selling memberships. So like he had that mentality too. So like it really created an interesting environment. And then the other half of the business, which is the marketing side, right, is, you know, this quiet tucked away corner where you got Dan Rose and you got, you know, there was like 3 video editors and a graphic designer. And then Robbie Amaro, he was doing email at the time for Six Pack, and Johnson Lee, who worked directly under Dan. And so there was I did phone sales for a little bit, and I learned that. And then a position opened up to learn how to be a copywriter. And I was like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I went to school for biomechanics. Like, I'm super smart. I know stuff about health. Like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And I don't have to, like, pressure's off. Like, I don't have to perform on the phone every day. Cause, you know, just like you learn in copy, tonality is everything when you're on the phone. It is like, they can feel it. Like when you're talking to a customer who just bought something and you're trying to obviously like upsell them, they can feel it if you're not into it. And if you think it's, you know, not legit, like they can sense it. So I was kind of like, yo, this sounds great. I can be behind my laptop and change lives. Like, again, this like idea of like helping people, was such a big motivation to learn how to do it. And I told you this story a couple weeks ago when we were paddleboarding, but just for the sake of anyone who's going to watch this video, my first experience with Dan Rose and learning how to write copy was essentially like, okay, here's your tryout. I want you to come back to our copy meeting tomorrow, and I want you to have 20 different loose outlines for YouTube content that you think people would love to watch, like on our channel, like the biggest fitness channel, right? And for whatever reason, like I didn't do any kind of research. I was just like, oh, I know stuff. So I was like, okay, it was probably stupid shit like how to foam roll to release your IT band and this shit. Like, it's a channel about getting abs, yo. Like, nobody gives a fuck about this. But anyway, so besides the point, I come into this meeting. This is like my first experience. There's like really talented people in this room. And you know, Dan Rose has he's a powerful reputation as a writer. So I wanted to impress him. And man, he just copied, he would just take the headline of each of my little YouTube outlines, he would paste it into YouTube. And there was not shit. Nobody cared. Like, the videos on those topics had like 200 views. This is what he did. He goes to our Six Pack Shortcuts channel. He pulls up like a couple just organic off the cuff videos of Chang doing like some ab exercises at home or some shit. Millions of views. And he's like, do you see this? He's like, come back with 20 more, but make sure that they're topics that people care about. He's like, this is what you need to be doing, stuff like this. And I was like, he highlights the entire document. This is like 18 pages worth of outline. He just highlights the whole thing red. He's like, yeah, hey, come back. I was like, oh God. But like, it is such an important, like, that being the first impression, even though it sounds kind of harsh, like, that's what, copywriting is. That it is black and white. It is as simple as, what do people care about, and follow that data, like follow that trail. Like, what is it that people desire, and cater to it. Like, it really is that simple. It's nothing about your ego and like what you think that person wants to hear about. Even if at that time I thought I knew a whole bunch of stuff that people needed, but they didn't care. They didn't want it though. Like, they might have needed it. So I think it was a really great lesson, because that's something that I'll never forget. But also, right from the get-go, it sharpened me. I was like, oh, okay, I can't fuck around. Like, this guy's dialed in. Like, he is metric. This is a robot right now. Like, he is ones and zeros, yes and no, black and white. So I was like, okay, it just really put me on point. And so I really liked that. And, so kind of how I started with copy was what I was doing. Aside from doing like writing some YouTube content outlines, I also was managing the YouTube channel. So what's interesting here too is it's kind of similar to like email copywriting, it kind of, because the description of the video, Dan had a formula for it. Like he had an early CTA, a middle CTA, and a closed CTA that was kind of like a PS from Mike Chang, because these descriptions of the workout, they always had this very like friendly, achievable, I'm here for you vibe. And so like I was trained to write in that tone, but also understand how to implement call to action into, free content, which I think was really valuable lesson too, because I understood the value of being able to sell somebody, but making it valuable too. So it's this beautiful bridging the gap between two things of like delivering value that someone cares about, but also getting a sale too, and making it seem like it's not really a sale. So I started doing that, and around that time, Mike was starting to kind of separate from the business a little bit. He was going to be going and doing his own thing, and naturally, I just sort of started getting a larger role in copy. And so what would happen is Dan and Johnson they would write outlines of VSLs and commercials, and then I'd just fill in the copy. And the other really important thing that happened along that time too was we had released a test booster called Test Reload, and we worked with a guy who crushed it. He's 52 years old, older demographic, obviously. And since we were going to be losing the face of our brand, which like is a really scary, like that's a hard thing to even conceive. Like, how do you survive something when Six Pack Shortcuts was Mike Chang? Like, that's who it was, and everything was about. And it's more than just a face, because, and that's like kind of, I later learned it, plug and play. It's a spicy game to get into, because when you compare plug and play to authentic, the true talent, the true spirit of what it was that we were doing, there's no comparison. But needless to say, we ended up getting in contact with this talent that we'd worked with before. And Dan essentially was like, hey man, like, how would you like to have your own product? And literally Abs After 40 was born. So Abs After 40 was, I actually wrote the digital program itself. So I wrote the entire workout course, like everything you'd get if you clicked add to cart. And that was also a good experience too, because I studied exercise science, right? Like I kind of like, I know stuff about exercise. Another great experience with Dan Rose coming in with like the first outline of the program. He was like, he highlighted it red and was like, do you think that a man who's 75 and who has 60 pounds of belly fat could do this deadlift? Do you really think that that's possible? What if they have double knee surgery? What's he going to do that? Like, he just started rattling off all these objections to the workout program. And I remember being so frustrated, but then like taking a step back and not taking it personally, he was so fucking right. Like, what's the point of writing this program if like the guy who's the person buying it is not a dude going into Lifetime, going into LA Fitness Gold's gym for training? Like, this is an introverted dude who's probably embarrassed. He's probably full of shame. He probably can't he probably can't tie his shoes without his blood pressure going up. You know what I mean? And so it was like, but again, I was coming from, okay, I was proficient at writing copy for the 18 to 25-year-old guy who wants abs, but this is a man over 40. This is not the same customer. So it was, again, like I really got checked, like, okay, cool. So like at that point, I was writing programs, and then I was writing those scripts too, like commercials, VSLs. I'd be in the green screen room with the talent, and I'd sit there with Chris, who's amazing, our top VSL creator. He was in there, he'd be directing, and I'd be in there too with the talent, listening to the talent read my script. And what an amazing experience that is too, because I have an issue with being wordy, super wordy with you've even told me, like when I showed you that the first draft of an emotional story, you're like, yeah, it's kind of wordy. And I reread it, I'm like, there's sentences that are like paragraphs in there. I'm like, geez. But I just an issue I have. But anyway, I'd go in the green screen room and I'd be working with the talent, and they'd read my script, and I would see, I'm like, it's not even punchy enough. The run on sentences, like it doesn't hit, doesn't connect. And so I think my copy really got refined just even, through that, sitting there and listening, to it being read to me from the talent too. Like I could feel if it was, I could see in their body language when they're reading my words, if it felt authentic for them. And if it wasn't, you could, everything about it. I'm like, that's not going to close anybody. I'm not convinced. You're not even convinced, So that was amazing. And, after that, we branched into, we just started cranking out offers. Like at that point, I started writing my own offers. Like I'd write the full VSL myself. I'd write a launch batch of commercials, and then we would test my version against Johnson's and against Dan's and see who won. So it was pretty cool because we started working with Thomas DeLauer, who already had a really great, presence, especially on YouTube.
Do you remember your first win?
My first win, it was definitely with Abs After 40. And yeah, I wrote this, there was a couple different commercials that I wrote that outperformed Johnson and Dan's, and it was like clear cut, like dominated. And it was, one of them was where we had the older talent, like he was like working out against like younger men, and he just like turns to the camera and he's like, do you want, very similar copy to the Patriot Alliance, the Patriot Power Greens Alliance, where it's like, I can't remember the opening line, but it's really like a quick cut. He turns to the camera and it's something about outperforming younger men or keeping up with younger men. That one dominated. And then another one, which was a 30-second commercial for YouTube. I called it Park Bench, where the talent, we had him dressed as like an old geezer, like he was sitting on the bench and he was like all old and kind of decrepit, and a beautiful woman walks by and the beautiful woman doesn't even notice him, like doesn't even pay any mind. And then it does like an instant replay, and he's this ripped grandpa. He's this ripped old dude sitting on the park bench, and the woman stops and talks to him. Just like 30 seconds. Literally, it's probably still working. That commercial is probably still working, but it just crushed. And so we used that 30-second intro on VSLs. I mean, we used it across different products. It just worked super well. And again, it's just, applying those pain points. You know what I'm saying? Like I think it was Organifi had a really great, the Invisible Woman VSL at one point, which is the intro is describing this woman who, she's an older woman who's like feeling irrelevant. Like she's not only losing like, the beauty, the looks, the youth, but like she's feeling like people don't notice her anymore. And, powerful, and men lose that feeling of status. Like that can happen. And so kind of those two ideas, those did really, really well. That was so much fun. And being able to, towards the end of my career there too, I was actually full blown managing the video production team too. So writing the copy, writing offers too. I think we wrote 3 offers with Thomas, which was Science-Based Six Pack. That was our intermittent fasting product, which did super well. We did Ketox, which was a keto program. And then we did Green Detox, which was our greens powder. And so doing that, and then also doing, the video production, which is kind of, we had a team of 8 in-house, full on green screen. We had a full gym. We had like workout sets. I mean, we could do everything in there. And what an incredible machine it was, because you acquire these people, even if they're not customers, like you acquire leads, but then you've got this back end of a phone sales machine who is delivering the type of service that it doesn't even feel like a sale. Like, cause you're just like, hey, it's Kate with Mike Chang Fitness. I saw that you just signed up with this program that wanted to make sure you could log in. Okay. Like it's literally, that's how it's such an easy walk-in, to really helping people. And so I really loved my time there. And, at that point I was making a lot of money. Like I started out like not making any money at all, but I was okay with it. Like it beat being on the road in Dallas. Yeah. Like it beat outside sales, like coming in there and like having to earn my way, and starting in phone sales too, which is like commission, you know what I'm saying? Right. Like having to earn my way and really like stagger it and slowly grow and learn and fail a lot. Like I failed tons. I still fail. And, yeah, so I kind of came to this point to where I was doing so much, and I felt like you just come to this point to where and I know you've probably dealt with this too. It's like, it's so hard to find any kind of balance, especially if you are crushing it as a copywriter, because if you have any sense of like competitive nature or desire to like win, you see that success and you're like, oh man, but I could test this or I could tweak this, and then, it could be like here.
Never ending.
Yo, it never ends. And so like, and that's the vibe, at Six Pack, which again, it's a double-edged sword, because working with some great talent like Johnson and Dan, so great. And, other people that came through our door, Native Path came through our door when we worked there. That's how I met Chad. And so like, we would meet, all these amazing people and come in and get to sit in. I mean, Sherpa came in one time. Jeff Radich came in and gave us like his download on email stats and like how to track shit out, like fucking 12 months in advance. We were just like, bro, what? Like, it was so cool. Like it was the best place to be for coming up, in marketing and in copywriting specifically. But I think, things were starting to change, and we were doing so many offers, like, 5 to 6 offers a year, full blown, like big launches, a lot of expectation. And I think it's a great thing. That machine is a great thing. But when you're running lean teams, it's really challenging, and to fight the burnout, and it didn't feel like it was going to be something that was sustainable for me. And at that time, an investment group was coming in too. So like, I felt maybe some uncertainty. And so I ended up leaving to freelance. Like, I ended up breaking away to like, okay, I've learned, I've ascended to this level where now I feel comfortable. I can break away and I can just do my own thing out here. And I did for a couple months. This was a year ago. I did that for a couple months, and I had some work, and I was actually making like almost the same amount of money for those first couple of months, it was amazing. And it's kind of like such an emotional experience when you spend so much time in an office, and you're getting, because it wasn't remote. Six Pack like is in Austin. So you're distracted by people are constantly coming in. You've got meetings like booked halfway throughout your day. And I know you're similar to me, where like I have to have like a dedicated focus period to get shit done. Yep. And when you're in an office that's got 100+ employees, like you got a phone sales team, you got, video production team, online team, ad team, like you got all these pieces, like it's really difficult to be effective. And so the first thing I noticed was like, oh shit, I only have to work like 3 hours a day now. Like if it's like hard folk, when I was freelancing, like, and it's just like one project at a time, right? Like 3 to 4 hours, I'm, on a project, and you're done, you're good. Like no distractions, like you can write a lot. And so I really loved that, but I miss the team.
Yeah.
It's so weird, because I thought in my mind, like being freelance was going to change everything. Like all those feelings of being overworked and, burnt out, like that was going to magically go away when I went freelance. But I felt really lonely. Like one of my favorite things at Six Pack was to like go to the sales floor and just bullshit with sales dudes, like listen to them overcome objections and role play and like talk shit, because that's how you learn so much when you do that, like when you interact with humans. And, I wasn't doing that. I'm like, man. And it's kind of miraculous how it fell into my lap. But I got a phone call with Chris Clark, the CEO of Native Path, and ended up doing a tryout for them, just writing for their greens products. And they ended up offering me a full position with the company. And I was super thrilled. But I gotta tell you, man, like the first 5 months, I fucking sucked.
Really?
Like
you struggled?
Yes, I like you wouldn't believe it. I'm not even afraid to admit it. Like I think there's a couple of reasons for it, but I think the main reason again is like all I had ever done since the get-go was service a male demographic. All I knew was how to speak to the 18 to 24-year-old. Okay, then like the 40 to 65-year-old. Like all I really knew how to do was talk to dudes, and I was really good at it. Like born and bred, could crush talking to dudes, like in my sleep. And then coming into Native Path, I don't know if I if I walked in carrying that same mentality of like, yeah, I know everything about copywriting. Like I know all the mechanisms. I could just plug and play. Like I know these formulas and and I can just make it. None of that shit applied. I'm telling you. And like, that is not what I expected. I swear. I really thought
Was it
I,
just because the demographics so much different? Like you're now writing collagen offers to a 60-year-old woman who's having trouble getting up and down the stairs. Is that kind of like
yeah,
where the I guess the difficulty was?
that was definitely one difficulty. But even deeper than that, I didn't even know it was the 55-plus-year-old woman. I thought soccer mom. I thought, oh, collagen, hair, skin, and nails. Like I thought. I didn't research. I just thought. And that's such a terrible mistake. Like it's so weird to after I've already learned that lesson in my past. It's funny, like having this conversation, because I've never actually like spilled the beans out in like one flow of how it went. But like, I thought that's what they were after. I thought that's who it was. I had no idea who the fuck it was. But that wasn't the only issue. At that time, the only front end Facebook, like the only acquisition collagen funnel that was working happened to be a funnel that was like a super deep discount. It was like $15.95. Like, it's not sustainable. Like the margins weren't there to sustain continuing running that. But that was the only thing that was really cranking. Um, when I came in last year, they weren't really doing much with paleo, the 30-day paleo hacks and the 30-day keto fix, which when I worked at Six Pack, our phone team, because we did client business too, we would sell those, like we sold those leads. Like we had those customers, and they would get fuck tons of customers a day. So I knew Native Path was a beast, like before I even took the job. Like I knew it was going to be, big shoes to fill coming on board with them. But when I first came on board, it was mostly collagen, not so much digital. And anyway, so that was the other issue too, is it's like, okay, so I'm up against this not knowing, like this unknown area of a demographic that I did not even know how to service, like language wise. And then the other issue is, okay, $15.95 collagen, get us out of this hole, like figure out how to sell collagen at full price. And I was like, fuck. So, here I am, like, yeah. One of the best things that you've ever said was at one of the Copy Accelerator events. You said the person who takes the most swings has the most wins. And, based on my training at Six Pack, I am no stranger to cranking out 20 different variations of something. I love the work. Like it's a strange thing where I do enjoy the writing, and I love the thesis, like the process of like thinking about how to take this angle, how to do it 20 different ways. Like I deeply enjoy it. And so we were just doing radical testing, but nothing was working. And so the biggest needle mover, which would seem like common sense, I ended up getting a spreadsheet together that had 200 customer names, phone numbers, and I had it separated to where I could see the highest AOV customers and then the lowest AOV customers. And so what I did is I just went down this list. I called them. I called these ladies up and I talked to them. And holy shit, I was like, it was like within the first 5 conversations, I was like, I have this whole thing wrong. Everyone I talked to, like, because I just kind of wrote a basic script where it's kind of, if it just was very like kind of survey based. It was mostly like what was the main issue you're trying to solve with our collagen, essentially, which you can do that email in a survey, whatever. But like calling them and hearing them is a totally different thing. And when I was talking to them, I was blown away because most of them were over 60, first of all. I didn't talk to a single soccer mom. There wasn't anyone 35, 40. Like these were women 55, 60. Talked to a lot of 70-year-olds. And the reason why they were coming in wasn't really hair, skin, nails. It was, I have sciatic nerve damage. I have degenerative disc disease. I have both of my knee joints have been replaced and I can't walk up the stairs. I threw out my lower back. I can't lift my hands over my shoulders. And I heard, or I read, because they're actually they do their own research. They heard that collagen could help them with their pain. So they were in pain. And it was so crazy because I'm like, oh my God, here's this gold mine, like this wealth of knowledge here that like so untapped, because I was taking these swings that were literally like not even on the same field, not even on the same planet. Like, it's so weird to think about it. I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? But it was like that literally changed everything. Like talking to the customer and getting on the phone and hearing them, like they're like old hens, like they're grandmas, you know what I mean? Like they can't play with their grandkids. They can't even
Right.
get on their knees and, play with their grandkids. They're having to not go on vacation and enjoy their retirement because traveling hurts, you
Yep.
know? That's really sad. And that's grounds for a lot of emotional storytelling, which I wasn't leveraging, in which when I first came into Copy Accelerator, I remember that was like the first thing you brought up. You're like, hey, why don't you try an emotional story? And I was like, you're right. Because it was literally the same time when I first started in the group, was around the same time where I had just started creating some advertorials that were cranking. Because once I got all that fuel and I heard their pain, I was like, oh fuck, I got tons of shit to try now. And I started writing advertorials. And so what happened with the advertorials, this is a beautiful thing. Because this is like, if you care about health, like if you're about it and you're a writer, the most beautiful thing to have happen is like you deliver value that truly impacts them, like education that they could take away and share, because it's so powerful. They're like, I gotta share this with fucking Susan, or whoever their friends are on Facebook. What happened was he started writing these advertorials about osteoporosis drugs, about foods that degenerate your joints, like these real hard hitting things. Foods that slow wound healing after surgery, like some grotesque shit that you're like, oh, I gotta know that. And what happened was, once they were educated, once they went through the advertorial and they learned about how collagen can solve these problems, it was like a night and day. Like, not only were we selling collagen at a like comparable price to what you'd see like with Vital Proteins or these other collagen companies, which is more of a full price for us. The AOV took off because once they were educated, once they understood why they needed it and they're at a deficit and that's why they have these problems, it was like it flipped everything on its head and everything started working. So we started having these education. Is kind of the marketing approach. How we're coining it is educate first, sell second, where you save that CTA for the very bottom. You don't, and this is something you and Stefan always talk about too, is don't give them the chance to buy before they're sold. Really sell them. And like I said, being able to educate and then seeing it clearly resonate because revenue is coming from it. I was like, yo, this is my dream job. Like this is what I'm talking about. But doing the emotional story, bro, yo,
Was that the first one you tried? Was the one I suggested to you?
yes.
Okay.
And
That
so
was the one about Chad's mom.
Chad's mom. And what's crazy is Chad and he's like my brother. So like writing for his voice it's like easy for me. Like I feel like I channel that shit and it's super easy. And I remember he and I flew to, this was last June. We flew to one of Mike Geary's masterminds together, and we were in the car together. And he was telling me a story about his mom. And it was along the lines of like his mom's had like 12 surgeries and she's gone through the ringer with healthcare. And I was like, what? And he started telling me about like she had a lot of like botched surgeries, and then anytime she had an issue, like because she fell one time, broke her hip. And then she had knee issues, and then she'd go back and the knee issue wasn't solved. So they had to go back in and do another reconstructive surgery. She had well over a dozen surgeries, and she's 72 now. And he had told me this story, and I was like, yo, I got to use that story. And then, we were talking and you brought up like, yo, you need to leverage an emotional story. And then I had just finished doing all those phone calls, and Chad's mom is like the extreme end of that avatar of the woman I spoke to on the phone. That's like Chad's mom, but Chad's mom is like the upgrade, like times 10, because I've never heard anything like that before. And so it was like all these things came together, and I wrote this story, and it immediately took off. It was like double the conversion rate of our best performing advertorial, which those were doing well. And we were selling good collagen, or a good amount of collagen with those in the AOV as well. But the AOV went up by like $20. Like if you compared the emotional story, it's literally $21. So I wrote it down before this interview. Comparing the emotional story to the strongest advertorial at that time, it was a $21 AOV difference. And so you really feel, and when you go through and you read a story about someone going through that type of thing, and that is what the avatar was thinking, was like, I don't want to be on pain pills. I don't want to have these surgeries. It takes forever to recover. I don't want to have to use a walker. I don't want to go through this. And Chad's mom went through that and used collagen to heal faster, and to build stronger joints and to do these things that allowed her to decrease the reliance on pain meds. It was literally like everything came together for it. And really the results of it spoke for itself. So
Right.
the emotional story is the way to go. And it's like, you don't have to have, like, it doesn't have, that was just an amazing miracle that we had something like that to use. But I mean, something that you guys mentioned, which I still do this for emails too, is just read the reviews and the testimonials. You know what I mean? Like you can extract micro stories out of there, like some hard hitting lines about shit that they're trying to fix, or even what they're going through. Because a lot of them, especially women in this age, they love to talk about shit they're going through. Like, so a lot of those conversations were like full on, like they're telling me their journey. But I didn't, I wanted it though. I clearly needed it. Like after the first few calls, I was like, okay, like I got to take this shit real. Like I was taking notes and stuff, because I'm like, this is gold mine. But yeah, when you really listen, you can extract so much, and you don't have to call all of your customers to get it. I mean, you can get testimonials, but hearing them is like,
It's a game
I
changer.
can't, it changed it. Like 2019 to 2020 native path it took, like, if you talk to Chris, he would tell you, it's like literally we flipped everything, 180. But one thing
It's interesting too, because like you go back to all the things that we teach with copy, and you could teach everything with like headlines and leads and the close and everything. But if you're writing to the wrong person the whole time, none of that shit matters.
Dude, that is such a good point, because that was the mentality. I was like, I know what works. Like I have seen the numbers. Like I am proven winner. Like I am the black and white Dan Rose. Like I know the mechanism type mentality when I was writing copy. But you're so right. Like if you don't really know who you're talking to, like none of that fucking mattered. And I was taking a lot of swings, and it took months. It took months before I ended up calling them and listening to them. And I was like, geez. And I don't know why there was such resistance. And when I look back, I don't know if it's like, when you become successful at copywriting, it's very easy to build an ego. Like it's very easy to be like, I'm the shit. Like I know what I'm doing. Like people pay me. I'm freelance. People pay me a lot of money to convert their shit online. Like, so you kind of create this, it's even subconscious too. Like it didn't even cross my mind to research. It's so funny. That's kind of at the beginning of the call where I was like, look, I don't know anything about copywriting. Cause like, I got to remind myself, like, that's the mantra, like always be a student.
Yep.
Because you don't know how things are going to change, and a great example of that too is COVID. Because honestly, when that first started happening in March, a lot of companies were having issues on Facebook, because you're fighting against this traffic, this attention. It's an attention battle, because there's all these, now it's like a lot of politics are coming into it too. So it's like there's so much coming into someone's feed. There's so much saturation that you're competing against now, that you really have to dial it in. And so again, like unexpected things like the pandemic happening flipped us through a loop. But fortunately, like I was quick enough to be like, okay, immunity angle, like we'll do this, which we'll take, because our products are all, they can all be, it's all about wellness, digestion, immunity, so it was very easy to do. But we didn't have any marketing material that talked about immunity, because I switched everything to pain. Everything was joint pain and bones and osteoporosis drugs and those types of things. But when we made that quick pivot, boom, everything works. So I was like, okay, cool. So like it's this like ebbs and flow, and paying attention and being relevant, because you don't know what's going to happen. And I think 2020 is such a great example. Holy shit. But there is another big win, actually. So let me scroll down because I wrote down the numbers. As when you first asked me about having a chat today, I was like, I was gonna tell you about a win that we had because it was
Oh,
something
nice.
you specifically suggested like a few weeks ago. Um, and I was working on a different project, so I didn't get time to really like get into it and assess it and handle it. And we ended up rolling it out. And bro, this is like, it's going to revolutionize. It did revolutionize things. We ran out of stock, so we had to stop the test. But let me pull it down. Okay. So something that always inspired me about it was when I was at Six Pack, you had this thing, beat your control, right? Beat your control. I had a beat your control binder. I had a
Oh, nice.
binder. Yeah, that had it was like Justin Goff's playbook. And one of the things that you had mentioned in there was, and this is still taught in Copy Accelerator, which is anyone who's not doing it should do it. It's the first upsell should be buy more of what you just bought. Period. End of story. It should be that way. But one thing I remember studying when I worked at Six Pack was Patriot, the Power Greens. The first upsell sold a larger bottle size, right? It was a few extra servings. It was this larger bottle size. And I'll never forget that VSL where it's like a woman in the warehouse, like she's in the warehouse boxing up your order right now. Like this. And it was like, it's such a perfect, it's such a, like, what a great user experience though. Like if your goal as a marketer is to upsell, what a beautifully like perfect way to take a user through an experience, especially an older demographic user, through this really comfortable, safe feeling like they're seeing their box is being, packed up right now. And hey, we can add, you can double your collagen for just a couple extra bucks. Because really the whole idea is well, let me back up. We have a 28 serving size collagen. Our acquisition funnel is a 25 serving, but there is a 28. There's a tub that we have that actually has 3 extra servings. In the scooper itself is double. It's double the amount of collagen you get compared to the 25 serving.
Okay.
So, and you had mentioned literally just a few weeks ago, you're like, I posted something about, hey, will you take a look at our cart? And you're like, yeah, your cart looks cool, but really like there's a lot of room for your first upsell to improve. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I didn't want to hear you say that, but it was like, it's super short form. It just like throws this offer out there. You don't feel safe. You don't really trust it. It feels kind of spammy, whatever. Like, eh. And so you're totally right there. And so I pulled out my Justin Goff playbook and I remember this idea of buy more. And it was a buy more, but like I said, it didn't really, it needed more attention to it. And our operations guy at that same time was talking about, hey, we need to, let's move these 28 serving bottles because actually if we get a good take rate, like the margin is out of control on it. It's actually better if we sell these. And I was like, oh fuck. I was like, I have the formula. Like I already, like in my head, the gear, I was like, oh, I know exactly how to do this. Like I know exactly how it's going to work. I'm going to do that same style where we're literally going to tell the person to add more on, we're boxing up your order. This is the only time you're going to see it. This is a great deal. You're going to get double the collagen for a couple extra bucks, which was completely true. It was completely true. So I was like, yo, this is going to crush it. So the control AOV before we launched that test, this is an acquisition. So someone just bought a 25 serving. Okay. So now the control AOV was 117 bucks.
Okay.
The variant where we're testing to see, how are people going to react when we ask them to buy more of this 28 serving, like this value size. It went to 139. So it was a $22 AOV increase.
Nice.
Okay. So that was just, now it gets better.
Oh,
There's more. Okay. So that was just the tech version. That wasn't with a VSL. I just wrote it. Okay. So then I was like, all right, everybody pause. Let's do this again. But this time, let's have Chad film a VSL. Literally, Chad Walding he's the shit. I wrote that script that day because after I saw the numbers, I was like, okay, everyone be quiet. I'm getting off this meeting call. I'm writing a script. We're going to test a VSL. And I promise you that VSL, it's going to beat this because everyone was blown away. They're like $22. Like that's fucking massive. So I write the script, I send it to Chad. Chad films this video like in his office, like because he lives in Lago Vista. He puts on his lab coat, fucking gets his native path, like a branded box, gets out the collagen. He crushes it. He's got a little teleprompter on his iPhone. This is an iPhone video, fam. Like this isn't Six Pack Shortcuts eight video team member production style. Like this is real simple, bare bones stuff here. But the mechanism works, right? So he films the script. We literally start testing it the next day. Okay. So this test runs for a few days, like 100 sales or so come through. So our new control, right, is $139. It jumped to 158. So it was a
Whoa.
19 extra dollars with the VSL. I was like, this
Wow.
is 1 week. This was 1 week of
Wow.
work. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't even call it 1 week. That sounds like a lot, because it happened within 1 week, this amount of testing and creating. But like something like this is so huge. And I was gonna write it as a post in the, in the Copy Accelerator group, just to share the win. Or I was thinking about doing it on one of the Tuesday calls, but I was like, nah. I was like, I gotta tell Justin, this gotta be hand wrapped and packaged and given, because this is a direct result of you really encouraging to do that. And also it's funny how things work out, because like I said, like I resort to that binder because mechanisms that stand the test of time, it's so great to refer back to, like, especially when you're in a situation where, your funnel, you look at a spreadsheet where it's got everything kind of listed out. What are the numbers look like? Where are we at? Like, where are the holes? Where are the weak links? And then you can look at one area and just focus on that area, and you can resort back to mechanisms and use those mechanisms, And so like that binder is great. Now I'll never forget the first time I saw the Patriot Power Greens where it sold them the bigger bottle. Cause it's
Yep.
like, you'd have to be silly to say no to it, right? You'd have to be silly to say, no, I don't want to double my order for a couple extra bucks. Like, that is silly, especially if you came through an emotional funnel, or if you came through a funnel that specifically educated you on why you need to take extra collagen a day, why you
Right.
need to load. You know what I'm saying? So it was like just a beautiful recipe. And this literally just happened last week. And Monday of this week, we had to turn it off because we ran out of 28. So we ran out. So we had to stop the tests. But, we haven't even, and here's the other thing too. That was acquisition. That was just in our acquisition. We tested this in remarketing as well. And so in remarketing, our control AOV for the remarketing funnel was 115. It went to 120, just the tech version. So that's $5 added on remarketing. And then we tested it with the VSL version of this buy more. And it went from 129 to 138. So
Wow.
that's retargeting. Yeah. Yeah. And I
So
had our,
there's two things I really want to point out for people listening. So the one thing that's really interesting to me is that you had the original offer, which was just buy more of this one, and you did a very similar one that was just upgrade to the bigger size, nothing like fancy, no video, anything. That just shows you the power of having the right offer, because really the difference between buy more versus upgrade to the bigger size, the upgrade to the bigger size is just a way more appealing offer. Because like when you're like, oh, why would I want more? But then it's like, oh, dude, you want a bigger one for X amount of dollars more. It's just so much more appealing. And it's why that offer works so damn well. And then the second thing that I want to point out is really, the format of the upsells just matters so much, because like you said, that original one you guys had, and this is a problem we see with a lot of people, like even super, super smart, like Native Path is one of the smartest people in the health niche. And yet they still had a pretty just short, very to the point upsell. There's not really a lot of copy in it, not really the greatest offer. And I'm sure it was doing okay, but when you really like go all in on that first upsell and you like write the copy and you do the video and you actually sell them like you would sell them on the front end, it just absolutely crushes every time.
man, it's like we can't even compare. It's the biggest win that we've had, definitely, since I've been with Native Path, the biggest it is so dramatic. And you're so right. It's the right offer, because, and this was something that I don't remember which speaker said it, but in the Vegas Copy Accelerator event, he said something along the lines of it has to be such a great offer that it's stupid to not take it. Like, they would be a fool if they didn't take advantage, because at that point it's a winner. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you're so right. Like the value of it too. But I loved taking the approach and testing it in steps, because for me, I wanted to prove that the tech version of the offer, just the, like you said, the offer being right, you can prove that with words, but having a video of the person that they trust, which is Dr. Chad. Physically, he had the 28 next to the 25. You see it, like you can see that shit. Like it's a bigger bottle. It says 28 on there. You can see the scooper. It's a bigger scooper. You're getting the loading dose, which is what you need to heal your joints and bones. The game changer. And so people who don't spend time on the first upsell, and I'm one of those people. Like I was so, but my, the first few months, and like I said, I've only been working with Native Path for a year. And, the first few months I was so concentrated on getting rid of $15 collagen. Like my whole focus was, how do I convince people to spend more on collagen when we literally just conditioned them to buy it for $15? Like that's a really hard thing to do. Is really hard, but learning their language, learning about their fears and desires, like really getting in there and then speaking directly to that, educating that, and agitating those feelings, you can easily sell it for more. Like, because once they understand the value, they don't care to spend more money. Like if they truly understand the value of what the offer is, they will spend the money, especially on a pain point like that. Like they're not trying to be on, pain medication and have more surgeries, you know what I'm saying? So it became a lot easier. And then the emotional stories, of course, but right now I'm really seeing this happen. Like this is so fresh. This just happened, we get 3,000 more bottles on Monday. So I'm super excited. I'm like, yeah, but we have to dial the traffic down because we sold, I think we had like 2,000 bottles. We sold it in like 4 or 5 days. Of not even full blown, like it was just like a 30% split. It wasn't even full on. So, I mean, it crushed. And another thing that's working for us right now too, is a test we're running in retargeting. We bought 100 frothers, the little handheld frothers. And we wanted to test the value proposition on remarketing to see if we can crank that up, specifically only for the 6 bundle option, the 6 pack, not the 3 or the 1. And all of the initial sales, I think we're at like 15 right now, are only 6 pack. They're only
nice.
the 6. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, here's another win. Nice. So, yeah, we're going to have to turn that off pretty soon, too, because we only got 100 frothers. But, like, these little things like this, they make, they go a long way. But really, my point I wanted to make is now that, we're in a comfortable place where we can easily sell collagen at a nice price that gives us great margin, turning to the upsells, which is something that I had just been putting on the back burner for reasons I obviously explained. Like just this little bit of success that we saw, in the past 2 weeks. I mean, I shouldn't say a little bit of success. Like those are huge numbers. Those are fucking massive. That just goes to show you front end and like don't give a fuck about the upsells. It's like everything can improve. The EPCs can improve. Like every part of what we do as online marketers can improve if you just give a little bit of extra attention there. And like you said, the first upsell makes all the difference. And I'm pretty sure that was like your first words in the reply in the group, the Copy Accelerator. You were literally like low hanging fruit. That first upsell though. I was like, I know. It's like 1 scroll's worth of copy. And it's like, bam, just like, hey,
I remember looking at your guys' funnel and being like, I'm kind of shocked this is working on cold traffic because like, I was like, I know numbers on upsells and I'm like, this thing ain't converting that great. I could tell.
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised you guys had shit working on cold traffic, but
yeah, I mean, we had a variety, and we still do too. We have a variety of funnels as well. Like we have a variety, like I have like 5 advertorials that are working pretty good. So like we've got like these different things happening, but that too is also like, hey, how about you just look at one funnel and you just make sure the first upsell, and let's just say the whole upsell flow in general really cranks, because when you have that, you don't need to be cranking out new advertorials and testing, creating these full-blown funnels all the time, which is kind of the habit we got into, because it's like, oh, this message really cranked. Let's try this message. Because we were kind of taking an approach where we look at one thing at a time. Because that's the other thing with collagen too, is there's so many benefits to focus on. And, one of the golden rules of copy is like, keep it simple, like one thing, like just try to fix one thing. Like you start talking about all this shit and it's like, it just doesn't have the same feeling. And so that, that's another big lesson too. But yeah, like I said, this is so huge for us that I've been now looking at our other funnels. Like we've got a coffee creamer, we've got medium chain triglycerides, like a powder. We got all these different supplements. We haven't even applied this to email yet. This is just Facebook. I'm like, oh fuck, like give me more 28s. So applying that across other offers too. Like we don't have larger size bottles for the other products, but I mean, this is such a great proof of concept alone. You know what I mean? Where, hey, all the funnels that have that first upsell that's super short and kind of spammy feeling, and I don't feel good about saying yes and adding to cart. Make it longer form and make a video. Guaranteed, like I guarantee you, there's going to be a lift across our, everything else that we do, because this hasn't even went into email yet, because we don't have, obviously we ran out of stock, but applying it to the other offers, I think is going to be massive too. And
oh yeah, for sure. And you also, now the cool thing, you have a proven template that is buy the regular size on the front end, buy the larger size, and any supplement you guys do from now on, or all the ones you currently have, you can start working on transitioning those. Because we did that once they worked on the greens, we were like, oh shit. And then we just started doing it to all the other ones, and it just worked on all the other ones too. And I was like, okay, now we have this set formula that works every single time. So let's just not deviate from it. Like if you know exactly what's going to work, like you're taking so much of the variables out of the equation by just starting with that.
That's such a good point. Yeah. And then, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember the exact flow. It's kind of the thing that you guys stand by. It's buy more, always the first upsell. It's the second one, like this accelerates your results type of offer. Like this makes it happen faster type thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's usually with upsells, like buy more of what you just bought is obviously the classic one. It works with supplements. It works with like survival food. It works with, if you order a year subscription to the newsletter, I'll upgrade you to the lifetime type thing. Those always work. And then get results faster is another one that always works. Like in health, it's buy the info product, then supplement upsell to get results faster. And then the third one is done for you. And I think the best example of the done for you is the one that Jay shared at the event, which was their credit secrets offer. You buy a book on the front end that teaches you how to lower your credit score and get it into a good range. And the first upsell is like this program that does like 90% of the work for you, which is just brilliant. Because it's not very easy to lower your credit score. And they're like, well, here, why don't we just buy this? And it does everything for you. Just, it's so brilliant.
I know, it is so brilliant. And I remember during his slideshow when he was going through it, I'm like, I'm fucking sold. Like he's the one, Jay is the one who actually said, the quote I mentioned was like, it has to make so much sense that it's just downright silly that they wouldn't take the offer. And if it's not, then it's not a good, don't put it in there. Don't put it in that place. That honestly, that slideshow in particular, I refer to that quite a bit. Because I think he does a really great job on making the person feel comfortable. He really stressed that, like in the upsell sequence. And this is so true, especially for when I talk to the customers, I heard them talk about it. The upsell thing is really kind of like, it kind of like, especially
it throws them.
It throws them, especially the older demographic. I didn't have those issues when I was at Six Pack Shortcuts. It was like the younger people just kind of knew, like could navigate. But the older people, like kind of, they have to have their anxiety soothed. Yeah. So I really liked how Jay really emphasized that, because I do that on the lander too. You know what I mean? Like I really make sure.
Well, you have to think of it from their standpoint. They think they're buying something and they're supposed to be landing on a confirmation page, and then it's over. That's what they're expecting. And then they land on this page and they're like reading it, and it's like trying to sell them something else. And they start thinking like, did something go wrong? Did my order go through? Am I going to actually did I just get charged? Am I going to get double charged? Like all that shit just starts flying through their head. And if you don't address that right away and be like, hey, you're in the right place, we're getting your order packed up and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You're going to lose a lot of sales.
Yeah. And this, what we tested this past week is a testament to that, because when they have that experience, that first upsell where it's very much like they are being welcomed, by Chad, like the person that everything was about, like the face of the brand. And I was like, I knew that, like, I already knew that that's like how to do it. So weird that like it get distracted. And, like we were talking about before this call, is it's, when you're doing when you're wearing a lot of hats, and you have your hands in a lot of different things, sometimes it's hard to actually see that big picture. Like, it's so hard sometimes to just kind of step back and be like, oh yeah, like that would make sense. Like, go through feel what it feels like to be that customer through the funnel. Like, clearly, like, we have holes here. And so it's so great to be in the copy accelerator because you get to do that. I just like send it to you. I'm like, yo, bro, like, look at it. Like, I'll be doing like 20 different things. And it's like, okay, I just like, this took me a couple days to write, like, give it to Justin and have him look at it and just shred the lead. But, and AOV close.
Yeah, you guys got a big bump of that. That was
big bump on AOV close. I forget the number, but I know it increased our conversion rate and it increased AOV. And I think that was a couple months ago when we did that. And it was most effective though, because we tested it on more of an educational flow, like where they came from a advertorial. And we tested it in we call it the heartbreaking story, which is Chad's mom's pre-sale, which leads into the lander. And the numbers were better when the person came through an emotional story than when they came through an educational piece. And we tried it with a few different of the advertorials that were more education based. But when they came through that story and then they went to the lander, and then, before they even get the buying options, there's a big section that kind of brings up the story of Chad's mom again, because they just read that. And then it goes into all the reasons why you need to have a certain amount of collagen every day. And paints the imagine, it gives you that storyline of what their life might be like, if they could play with their grandkids, without being in pain, and things like that. And then really instilling value of that 6-pack, like really building the value on that one being the option you need to take. And it worked way better on the emotional funnel than it did on educational. But AOV close is money.
It is
money. You got to talk to them, man. You you really got to spell it out. And then you'd be amazed if you do it and you do it right and the offer makes sense. Like, it truly works. It's really not rocket science.
No, I agree. It's one of those things, honestly, I didn't even know about until I started working with Stefan. And as soon as I learned it, I was just shaking my head because I was like thinking of all the money I left on the table for so many years.
Yeah, money. And that's where I'm at now. Like, I feel like those were your words too. You said, I think you're leaving money on the table with your first upsell. And you're so right. Like, we were. That's kind of my mindset right now, is like, where am I leaving money on the table at Native Pet? Like, where in our funnels am I leaving money on the table? Because it's not just the first upsell. Like, this is just scratching the surface. And now that we're in this comfortable place and we have great margin and it's healthy, we know we can, we've got the conversion that we like. Building this AOV and building the lifetime value, like, that's how you're really going to blow it up. And I don't think, in the circle of people that I speak to that are copywriters, a lot of them are just they love to talk about the conversion. They love to talk about, getting customers on the front end and like what that feels like, what that's all about. Like, oh, this crushed. But no one wants to talk about AOV and LTV. Like, no one wants to talk about the long-term play. And it's like, oh man, it's like plug and play with upsells. Like, oh, I just say, whatever, if I make some extra money, it's cool. But like, it's all about the front end. I'm like, yeah, it is. But like, this just goes to show you, so.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I actually talk about in the new course I'm putting out is like if you had to boil it down to like 4 things that really matter, it's like the ads, your lead, your mechanism, and the AOV. Like, if you're nailing all 4 of those, your offer is going to work. And if you're hugely missing on one of those, it's probably not going to work. I mean, there's 900 things that go into a good sales page, but it's like, get those 4 things right, and you're going to be beating 95% of the people out there. That's
so true. Yeah, it's great advice. And it's also great to see people posting in that group too, like what they're trying and what they're testing. Because, I don't work in an office. Like, being with Native Path, we're all remote. It's like a team of 10 people. You know what I mean? Like, we're super lean, super efficient. And I don't get to bounce ideas. Like, I don't get to go role play and talk shit with the shirtless sales dudes banging out, phone calls. And so, like, being in the Copy Accelerator group, it's so great to see that, like, I can read you guys' feedback too. So it's kind of like you're getting schooled, I feel like I'm kind of, I'm still in that learning phase, which is obviously, it's like the theme of my life is like, you gotta remember, like, you don't know it all. And there's always money left on the table somewhere.
Yep. I think that's a good spot to end on. I'm sure this is going to be a very enlightening conversation for the people that listen to it. I'm happy you came on and shared your wisdom, your story, all the big wins you guys have had. I mean, I'm still kind of shocked that you guys had that big of a win with the with the upsell. So yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Kate, thank you for coming on. Totally appreciate you sharing everything.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Justin.